Hello, I'm Liam Dan, host of the NZ Herald podcast Money Talks. We're back for our 5th season with an exciting range of guests. You can listen to Money Talks at nzherald.co.nz or on your favourite podcast app. New episodes every Saturday.
You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
The national swim champs wrapped up during the week. They doubled as qualifiers for the 2023 World Swimming Championships in Fukuoka, Japan, and the 2023 World Para Swimming Champs in Manchester, England. 7 athletes qualified in 16 events and 2 relays for the World Para Champs, and 16 swimmers will go to the 2023 World Swimming Championships from New Zealand after one of the fastest trials ever held here. Among them, unsurprisingly, was Lewis Clareburt, who joins us now. Lewis, you swam in 7 individual events. You picked up 6 medals, 5 of them gold, and qualified for the World Championship in the 200 IM and the 400 IM, as well as the 400 medley relay. So a pretty productive week for you. How do you reflect back on the Nationals?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Look, I think it was an awesome week of racing. I think over the last sort of 3 or 4 years, every year it sort of just gets that little bit better. I think 2018, I made my first New Zealand team, and not on the Commonwealth Games, but as just the swimming team, and there were 3 or 4 of us, I think, on that team. And now, coming in this year, going away to the World Champs, there's 15 of us plus 4 or 5 para swimmers. So it's a pretty huge team, and from what we've been able to do over the last sort of 4 or 5 years is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been incredible to watch. What has led to that increase in the numbers of swimmers who are achieving such good times and now qualifying for the World Champs?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I'm not entirely sure. I think there's been a change in, I guess, from the athletes and how successful we want to be, and the goals have changed. And I think swimming as a sport, we're getting more competitive, and when we get 1 or 2 competitive swimmers on the world stage, I think other people sort of want to follow. So I think just from athletes at the top inspiring the younger swimmers wanting to be successful is helping. Yeah,
whatever is happening and whatever you're doing, it's working. These nationals, Lewis, you really loaded yourself up. You did 7 individual events plus relays. Why did you decide to enter so many events?
I'm not really 100% sure why we did it in the end, but it was more about just racing and getting as many events under my belt as possible, and seeing how my body sort of held up over the week. I had 8 events plus 3 relays at the start of the week, and ended up doing 7 with the 3 relays. The body did pretty well, but sort of felt a little bit at the end, but then had to get my qualifying time in the 200 medley on the last day. So I was happy that I managed to tick that off on the last day. But yeah, it was pretty tough, but I think we handled it pretty well, and it's a sort of good sign moving forward that we can swim multiple events at reasonably competitive speed.
Yeah, you talked about qualifying for both the 200 and 400 individual medleys going into the nationals. Was that the aim above everything else?
Yeah, for sure. That was sort of my only goal going in, just to make sure I nail the qualifying times, and then whatever else I get is sort of like a bit of a plus. So obviously managed to nail the 2 butterflies, and then because everyone's swimming so fast across the board, now we've got a 4x1 medley relay, so we haven't had that since I've been swimming. So I guess it just shows how competitive we are across all 4 strokes in New Zealand now.
Can I ask you about the 400-metre freestyle final? You went out really quick and led through 300 metres. Zach Reed then went past you in the final 100 metres and won it, and qualified for the World Champs with the time that he swam. And I don't think I've ever seen a happier second place getter than you when you finished and saw Zach Reed had swum that time, and then you went over to congratulate him. Can you tell us about the story behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that, Zach, that's probably one of his main events, the 400 freestyle, and traditionally we have been battling since sort of 2016 in that race, and I think he's probably got a few wins more than me now in the 400 free, but we used to go head to head all the time, and obviously he hasn't been competing in sort of like 18 months since Tokyo, and it was his last chance to get the qualifying time for Worlds, and I knew that I probably would be there, I guess, on the other side of the pool racing him, but I also wanted to support him to get that time. I didn't think I'd be able to actually get it myself, but I knew that if I went out fast and sort of raced it from the beginning, we'd have a bit of a race on our hands, and then maybe I'd fall to bits towards the end, and I'd sort of hand off the baton and head, keep swimming and get the time, and that's pretty much what happened. I swam pretty much, only a couple seconds off my 200 freestyle PB in the first 200 meters, and then just slowly got slower and slower, and then just saw him zoom past me, and then when I finished the race, a few seconds after him, and saw the time that he'd done, I probably should have actually got DQ'd because I crossed over the lane ropes before the marshals gave me the word, but it didn't really matter. It was awesome to see him get the time after the journey that he's been on.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the latest example of something I've seen in you, and in fact in the entire team, is that you seem to take real joy in the achievements of others. Whenever a Kiwi swimmer, made a world championship time, or often when the camera panned away, there was so much support for one another. Is that the way it is right now inside the entire New Zealand swimming fraternity?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously we're competitors, but at the end of the day, we're all representing New Zealand when we go overseas. So we all want to see each other do well. And I think it's been, one of the highlighting factors of our swim team over the past few years. We've really started to get around each other, and I'm not sure what, Kiwis used to do in the past on the swim teams, but I know that for now we've created a really awesome culture around supporting each other, and we just want to keep building that. And over the last sort of 6 months since the Commonwealth Games, we've really tried to nail in our culture, and we really want to continue to improve that. And I think, every great team starts with a great culture, and we've really started to notice that over the last sort of 2 years since I've been on the team.
So great to see. So great to see. So your focus now presumably goes on to the World Champs in the middle of the year in Japan. So what will your work between now and then consist of? How will you structure your build-up?
Yeah, so for now, I'm really focusing on my little, skills that I didn't get right in at the trials last week. I swam fast, but I can probably get a few seconds off just some of those, the turns and the underwaters. So we've got some of the high performance Sport New Zealand guys coming down to Wellington to do some analysis around, what I did at the open trials and what I can do better moving forward. So those are sort of the easy little fixes that I can do. And I think just continue doing what we've done over the last 3 or 4 years, because we've got quite a good recipe for success. So if we can continue that, I think we're going to be in a really good space come World Champs in July.
What's the situation, Lewis, around getting the lane space and the pool time that you need in Wellington where you live? Because I know that there were some challenges around that for a while. Has that all kind of been resolved?
Yeah, I've actually been really lucky since sort of March this year. Swimming New Zealand, High Performance Sport New Zealand, and the council came up with an agreement to sort of support me and my team until Paris. So we're going to have hopefully good lane space moving forward, which is sort of we've had it for around a month now, and I've been super lucky and happy where we've been with the lane. So I'm hoping that by the time until Paris, we're going to continue with that. And, I'm super grateful for all the parties that came together and made that agreement.
That's great to hear. I'm really pleased that was all sorted out. So the World Champs then, because they fall, about a year, and less than a year before the Paris Olympics, do the World Champs feel like a stepping stone to Paris, or are they, being a World Champs, an event in their own right where you'd really like to try and target getting on the podium?
Yeah, honestly, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be the first time that, it's less than 12 months until Paris Games when we go over there in Japan, and it'll be cool to see where everyone else is at. It's a good indicator to find out who the competition is going to be and the new faces that might pop up. And I know that my event has moved forward so much in the last sort of 12 months. So it'll be interesting to see where my main competitors and what they're doing and stuff like that. So I think it will be the first sort of stepping stone until Paris. We've got another World Champs early next year in February, which will be sort of the last test into Paris. But I think, for me, I'm just excited to go out there and race and see where I'm at moving forward.
And outside of the pool and your training and your competing, how have you found the increased demands on your time? Because if I think back to pre-Commonwealth Games in 2018, you wouldn't have had too many, public speaking engagements or media calls or requests to go and talk to kids at schools and that sort of thing. Now it seems as though there are many more demands on you. So has that been an adjustment that you've had to make?
Yeah, it has been quite interesting. Obviously, like you said, the Gold Coast, I sort of went in, no one really knew who I was, and I sort of could just go about my business how I would normally do it as an age group swimmer. And then coming in, to this year and last year, it's sort of steadily increased. And it has been a bit of a journey, and I quite enjoy, sharing my story and my experiences. And, I think it's quite fun, doing this sort of stuff, especially because, I know where the sport was 10 years ago, and it has, been a bit of a roller coaster, but, I can see the potential on how successful we can be here in New Zealand, and I just love sharing that experience. But, obviously sometimes it does come at the cost of, my time, but I think, that doesn't really matter. I sort of just love sharing my journey.
Love it. Love the attitude. Well, thank you for sharing some time with us this afternoon, Lewis. Congratulations on a great Nationals. Look forward to seeing how your build-up goes towards the World Champs, and hope to catch up again sometime soon. Thanks, mate.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday, or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.
Hello, I'm Liam Dan, Business Editor-at-Large for the New Zealand Herald, and I'm back with another season of my podcast, Money Talks. In this series, we're not going to tell you how to get rich. We're not going to try and pick the next interest rate move. Instead, I'll be talking to some interesting New Zealanders about how money has shaped their lives and what they've learned about it through the years. Join us every Saturday for a new chat with an exciting range of guests from the world of business, politics and entertainment. You can find Money Talks with me, Liam Dan, wherever you get your podcasts.